Good morning. It is 22 minutes after 7 o'clock, and joining us in studio this morning from Bristol Law Office, Matt Bristol back with us. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself? Everything fair okay with the storms and everything this weekend?
Well, my wife and I live up near Brando, and she kind of wanted KFC for dinner on Sunday, and so after the first big storm passed, and that was about an hour's worth.
Yeah.
I was looking at the radar, and I thought, well, I might have a window of opportunity. So I drove all the way from Brando to KFC.
So you went from one end of town to the other.
And I took Union. And North Union was flooded. South Union was flooded. Hobbs was flooded. I mean, it was a whole lot of water going on.
Man, well, was the chicken good?
It was. It was. But like at KFC, there were no sidewalks. It was just water straight across the street.
Wow.
Yeah, it was deep.
Wow. Yeah, in the south end, just always, I guess just lower, and you get a drop of rain, and next thing you know, there's standing water down in the south end. It's just how it is.
Yeah, there was one street, and I don't recall the name of it, but it was a river. I mean, it was rushing across Union.
Mm.
Yeah, so
wish we could get this rain spread out a little bit. We don't need all of it in a day or an hour.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit every night. At night.
Give us 10, 15 minutes each night. Maybe we can space it out. That'd be perfect. But we don't get that say, so it is what it is.
You didn't lose any windows, did you? From the
No, we did fine. We got loud and got, we did okay. We knock on wood. Everything worked. Everything's good for now, and exactly. And no need to call to get anything repaired yet. But sometimes you don't find out things till days later, so we'll see.
Yeah. So Sean was talking about the roofers, storm chasers coming in town. So to be a roofer in New Mexico, you do have to be licensed. And folks, you can always check at the Construction Industries Division in Santa Fe to see if these people are licensed.
Okay.
If they are, they're supposed to have their license number on the truck, business card, invoices, bids.
Yeah, when it comes to any kind of contract work for your home or really anything, you do your homework on that stuff. You've heard the hundreds and thousands of nightmare stories of people with contractor work and things like that. And I'm guessing, I don't have a lot of experience in this department. I haven't hired a lot of contractors to do things for me. But like anything else you do your homework. And, like Matt was saying here, make sure that they have the certifications. And
absolutely.
That's the huge red flag. If they don't have any of that, odds are then, you might want to find somebody else to go do your project.
There are people that live here that do roofs, and they're not licensed contractors.
Yeah.
So again, that's the Construction Industries Division.
Put it this way, the Judge Judy show has a whole reason, or on the air is for a lot of it is because people didn't do their homework on their contractor work.
Yeah. So another tidbit is the Construction Industries had a really good lobbyist at some point. Because the law says that if an unlicensed contractor does work on your house, you don't have to pay him.
Oh, wow.
Not even for the materials.
Wow.
That's the penalty for not being licensed. So it's, they had a really good lobbyist.
Good deal. So do your homework a little bit. I know, and I know especially probably this time of year and things is when most people think about things like this too. So just do your homework out there, and especially now that we're going to see probably some storm with roofs and with probably even your dent repairs on your cars and all those and all that too.
Yeah, it was up north. We only had like marble size hail, maybe a quarter, but sounds like Sean saw some really big pieces.
Yeah, there was they said down south lemon size, and like I said, I saw a couple of gnarly looking the spiky things that they were in his hand. But it was bad yesterday. So do your homework on that. That's something that I'm sure Matt's seen a time or two where you just you trust somebody a little too much, and you end up having to get things redone or pay for it out the tooth later on. So.
Well, that's right. You get what you pay for, so don't take the low bid. They might be unlicensed.
Yeah, this is true. There might be a reason why they undercut the other group by a couple grand.
Yeah. Yes, be careful out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for folks who don't know, Matt joins us once a month, and we chit chat about just sage legal advice for anything from family law related issues to business and in between. We've spent a lot of time talking bankruptcy over the last couple times here.
Well, Sean and I started that last month when you were on vacation.
Yeah.
It looked like you had a great time at the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, absolutely. No legal issues there.
Good. Awesome. So Sean and I were talking about stuff, and so one of the things I kind of realized after the conversation was a lot of people that come in for, just see debt relief, do I need this, and what's going on. Most people do not have a written budget. And that kind of always shocked me because I've had a written budget for so long.
Sure.
I guess. But that's really the first step is
Sure.
Everybody should have a written budget and follow that budget. So until you know where your money's going, you really can't redirect it.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. I guess, me growing up and learning finances and learning how to do all that, we did a lot more work in the checkbook. So, in there, here's your ledger where you could keep, and that I think most people had at least that going on growing up. But now that we're in a digital world and banking's done online and people can go and just look at their bank statement online at any given time, I think people are now less apt to sit down and make either a written down thing or have like a QuickBooks or one of these programs to kind of input that information anymore.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Everybody's got the debit card that they use instead of writing a check. And when the days we used to pay with checks, we had a check register. And we'd write down who the check was to and how much it was
your credit.
for.
We had to learn all those ledger lines and all that stuff.
Balance the checkbook every month. And now with debit cards, people can look at their statement online. They can look at it, but I don't know how often they do or if they even really pay attention to the money that's going out.
Well, and that can be deceiving too, because if you wrote a physical check and, that's not going to show up in there as quick as something that you paid a card for. So if you're not paying attention there and you wrote a check for something and then you turn around and spend all the money at the grocery store and then the check comes in, since you weren't keeping a ledger of all that, it's easy to forget that kind of stuff. People are like, oh yeah, I forgot that check come in. And I mean, if you're at least somewhat on top of it, you can avoid most of that. But if you're not, if you're just kind of, I remember back in the days with kids were like, I got plenty of money. I got 20 checks left in my checking account. They don't realize the concept of, they learn the hard way.
Yeah, the other people think that.
Yeah.
But, that's a good thought, Mike, for people who use the debit card too much is to go ahead and order some checks from the bank and start writing checks because that might slow the spending down.
Sure, absolutely.
If they pull out a checkbook and actually write something down, they just might not spend that money after all.
And I feel like it checks nowadays. I say nowadays, these highfalutin checks, but it's been a while. When you write checks, at least most of them come with the carbon copy version of them now. Right. So you still have a physical copy of something saying you wrote that check out to somebody. So there at least there's also that documentation as well for your records.
Yeah. So maybe switching from debit card to writing checks would help people stay within their budget, not spend as much money on candy or gum or soda pop or whatever. So having a budget that works is an art. It usually takes about 4 or 5 drafts, tries before you get a budget that really works.
I think part of that too, and this is maybe like some of those tips you're talking about as far as, avoiding bankruptcy and not getting in those situations in the first place. Maybe it's going backwards in technology a little bit till you're comfortable there, and I think that's what you're kind of getting at. But it makes complete sense if it's really easy to spend money when it's you just flash a card or whatever. If you're kind of like, look, I'm going to take out X amount of dollars in cash each week. That's what I got for whatever your spending money is or your extra money, whatever, how you want to budget that. But And likewise is everything else. Pay with the checks. That way you have a documentation of it. You're forced to balance that a little bit, and use that little budget book in the checkbook. That's why that's there. And get that way until you kind of set your routine, set your pattern, get that to, okay, it's this date, it's time to write this check, it's this, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And sometimes that way your technology can be convenient, but it also can be too convenient. And this might be one of those areas where to get yourself disciplined or to get yourself into a good spending habit and way to do that, do it the hard way till you feel comfortable with it.
Another no-tech version is to use envelopes. Mm-hmm. So you write an envelope for the mortgage or utilities or groceries or gas for the car. You put cash in the different envelopes.
Yeah.
And so, if you want to spend more money on gum than's in the envelope, now you physically have to take it out of somebody else's envelope.
Sure.
And that's a real awakening right there when you go, oops, there's no money in the envelope.
And that really gives you a visual of the decisions you're already making.
Yes.
Every time you go into a store and you see a shirt and you're like, oh, can I afford that shirt? Well, if I don't go to the gym next week, you know what I mean? Those are the kind of, you're just doing that in a physical form. And then once you've had that visual to go with it, you realize how many times you spend things on money on things you don't really need.
Right.
And how many things you sacrifice or delay just for that instant gratification.
Yeah, it's a very real, tangible. The envelope's empty, and the only way to spend money is to take it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so it's a very visual, tangible, this is not going so well kind of thing.
If you're not ready to kind of full on do that with everything you do, start small. Pick something like your out to eat budget and do that. And then you realize how much money you spend going out to eat versus food. I mean, how many times do we, if you can afford it, great. But in times when
eating out's expensive,
you're making minimum wage and then you get your budget and you're like, I got to pay my bills. Next thing you know, one night out to dinner blows the whole budget. When you spend, even if it's $40-$50 or $20 or something, that amount can just throw everything off.
Even
off
at the grocery store, if one sack of groceries could cost you $20 or $80, depending on what you pick out.
Yeah.
So that budget means you stay within your grocery budget.
Yeah. And that's where you can train to read labels and all that kind of stuff to get cheaper products and, getting the same thing for less money and all that.
And at the grocery store, most of the time they have price per ounce on the price. So you can check that out too. Absolutely.
All that stuff is little things to help you not file for bankruptcy and do the things that people do down the road when I mean, sometimes we have it. Life happens,
Oh, yeah.
COVID, I'm sure, a lot of people weren't ready for COVID and everything else, and it messed people up. And hopefully lessons learned out of this thing is, hey, even something crazy like COVID, that we don't necessarily think ever is going to happen, happens.
Yep.
And you've got to have a contingency plan for that when it does. And that's what, hopefully, if nothing else through this last year and a half, if you've never learned any lessons out of this, that's when you've took him with you. So
another low-tech way that a check register comes in handy. And by the way, even if you do have a debit card that you just use all the time, you can still get a check register from the bank. But so a lot of people, they get paid every 2 weeks.
Right.
But the bills are the 1st and the 15th. And so sometimes that's awkward timing. Mm-hmm. And so I suggest to people, I said, okay, well, so when your next check comes in and get a check register, you deduct half the mortgage payment in the balance, running balance. And then in 2 weeks, the first of the month, when you get next check comes in, then you add in that half mortgage payment at that time because it's still there. You didn't spend it.
That's kind of what we do, except for my wife went one step further and actually talked to the mortgage people and everything and said, hey, we're going to pay you twice a month. We're going to, basically every paycheck, she's just sending them half our mortgage. And that's kind of the way we've got it set up like that.
Yeah, if you can pay it. And the way that works is you're actually paying half the payment 2 weeks early before it's due. And that's one way that will actually pay off the mortgage faster.
Yeah, that's our goal, is trying to just, whittle it down a little bit extra, putting more money than, the things that you hear in tips and things. It's just because your mortgage payment is, I'll say $1,000 a month, doesn't mean you have to pay $1,000 a month if you want to pay more. You could say, you know what, I want to pay this off faster. I'm gonna pay $1,200 a month, and you get that towards the principal. Next thing you know, that 30-year mortgage is paid off in 20 years or something like that.
Yeah, 30-year mortgage is basically rent.
Yeah.
So one way to pay it off in 20 years is you take your monthly mortgage payment, you multiply it by 14, then you divide by 12. And so that's the amount you send in every month, and you direct, this extra amount goes to principal.
Mm-hmm.
So you can direct that it goes to principal. And I'll pay it off in 20 years. You save 1/3 of
it's a huge difference.
$300,000 in interest, But if you pay it off any faster than that, then that's money you could be saving for retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you pay it off any faster, you actually lose in the long run because you'll never make up.
Gotcha.
That money that you didn't save.
So there's like
retirement.
a sweet spot there. You kind of just find that groove and ride it there, and you're going to come out pretty good at the end.
Yep.
Gotcha. But that's the kind of stuff that unless you got parents that kind of gave you all the ins and outs when you were a kid on this kind of stuff, and you paid attention.
Yeah, and mine did, and I learned all this, in my job.
And then the other is you either learn on the fly or you don't, and that's why and the stuff we're talking about here, please. None of this is common sense. I know some people that have been doing this for a while, like, I've been doing that for years, but unless someone's physically taught you or, this stuff isn't just generally known out there. So please don't feel embarrassed or stupid that you don't, because I know that too. When you're in your 30s and 40s and someone starts talking adult questions to you and you're supposed to act like you know what you're talking about, but you don't, and you're like, oh, what am I? Don't be embarrassed about this stuff. This is, unfortunately,
Yeah, and money's one of those subjects that nobody talks about.
Yeah. It's
because you can't ask somebody, how much do you make, Mike?
Yeah.
That's a rude question.
Yeah, and then it's like diets or anything else. Some people everyone's got an idea for you, and and sometimes you're like, all right, is that a crackpot idea or is that sound legal advice? And you don't. And sometimes you have trouble determining which is which. Sometimes, even though the people and their family and friends, you're like, hey, they make good decisions. But when it comes to finances, not all people are created equal when it comes to knowledge and that stuff.
Well, that's right. And one of the reasons where that comes from is like in the early 60s, if you wanted to buy one share of Coca-Cola stock, it was like $80. Okay, but minimum wage was $1.35. So that generation didn't have money to invest.
Right.
They didn't teach anybody, and who didn't teach anybody, and they didn't teach the grandkids.
Sure.
So now you got these people that never learned how to save and invest because 3 generations ago it was too expensive.
But you've got 30, I can't believe it's not butter tubs underneath your sink. Because they were good at that.
Yeah. And the grape jelly jars that became drinking glasses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Got those.
Oh, exactly. But yeah, you're right. So it's okay to ask those questions and be naive and please, don't feel embarrassed or certainly just assume, make up like, well, I'll figure it out along the way, and ask these questions,
Ask when you're young, find out when you're young, before you start making mistakes.
Sure.
Get a written budget, follow the written budget. So if you're a couple and your grocery budget's $1,000 a month, that's fine. But that's going to include eating out and cleaning supplies.
Sure.
That's everything you buy at the grocery store, Walgreens. So if you're spending $1,500 a month, okay, that's too much.
Right.
That's too much. That's why it's called a budget. You live within the budget.
Yeah. You gotta. It's and it's something you should do very much in the early stages of, especially when a young couple get married and stuff. I think that's the difference between success and failure. Sometimes is doing. I know everyone's got their little systems and their little. Well, I like to do it this way. Okay, but at least put something in place, something there to help you, and whatever works best in your head, you do you on that. But have something in place to keep you honest, because your temptation, I don't care who you are or where you are, you're going to be tempted. Yep. It's going to be like you're doing good and then something you want, a movie, even if it's something as simple as a movie or a date night, and you're just like, oh, that's perfect for us, but we can't afford it. Oh, what if I do? And that's where the times get if you don't have a plan there, and even if you have your plan, that plan will help you do it. It's like, okay, all right, this is really important to me, but now I've got a plan. I realize if I pull a little from here, and move this here, I can do that. I mean, don't make that an everyday thing, but the budget allows you to do that once in a while too. So things that are really important that pop up, you just got to work it into the plan.
Yeah, and you got to be careful because stuff begets stuff.
Sure.
So, for example, I've never owned a stereo system. Okay, I just never had one.
Gotcha.
Why? Well, now you got to have speakers.
Yeah.
Now, what are you going to play on it? Well, now you got to have CDs. Well, now you got to have something to hold the CDs. Got to buy a CD rack, and stuff begets stuff.
Sure.
And it's just you're spending money and spending money. It just gets a little out of hand. So part of a good budget, and this is in the debt relief situation. Part of the budget is you need to save for things that are going to happen for the next 5 years. So in debt relief, it is a 5-year budget.
Gotcha. Okay.
So what that means is for the next 5 years, you're living on a cash basis. So if you have a flat tire, how are you going to pay for that? You got to have cash.
Gotcha.
So the budget's designed to be a 5-year budget and you not use any credit.
Gotcha.
And that's how it works. So you're allowed a monthly savings of a couple $100s a month, say for auto repair. You're allowed to have savings for clothing and birthdays. You're allowed to have a savings for home maintenance, replacing appliances.
So to help out with the unexpected life happenings to
we all
prepare
know,
you for that.
Well, have you ever had a car that didn't break?
Exactly. And it's always the most inopportune time.
Right. It's the same week that the washer dies or something like that. So the budget in the debt relief situation is designed to get you on a cash basis and keep you there.
Okay.
So that $400 or $500 a month you're spending on the credit card bills, well, the credit card's now gone away. That money goes in savings.
So now we're going to teach you how to take this money and live within your means on it, basically.
Basically. So if you think about saving $400 a month for 25 months, that's just 2 years. Okay, that's $10,000 in the bank.
It's a lot of money.
Do you really care what the credit score is if you got 10 grand in the bank?
Yeah. And then to be honest, the credit score, as you do more right things, the credit score goes up.
Well, it does. And if you're at the point of, gee, do I need a bankruptcy or don't I? Chances are your credit score is either A, already shot, or B, just about to get there.
Yeah.
Because you're having trouble making those payments.
Yeah.
So it's just about to go down the tubes. The bankruptcy really doesn't affect the credit score too much, but it allows you to get on a cash basis to not have to use credit cards if you don't need them. Or if you do have to use them to pay for the new tires, then at least you got the cash in the bank.
You got the freedom to get done what you need to get done. And then at that point, that over time, by you doing it that way, your credit's going to start repairing and getting to a place where you can at least apply for credit again. Although, hopefully by that point, you're using it minimally as opposed to relying on it to live.
Yeah. So if you were to ask me what my credit score is, I'd tell you, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't use it.
Gotcha.
I don't use it for anything. I don't go into debt. So I don't care what it is.
Right. You're like, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Which means this credit score is probably pretty good.
Chances are, but, I don't use debt.
Well, and if you're smart, you can kind of look at your mail and tell you how good your credit score is without getting your credit score. Because, like, if they're throwing a bunch of credit cards at you, your credit score is good enough that they'd be considered giving you. If you get a bunch of stuff in the mail about repairing your credit, then odds are your credit's probably not very good.
Probably not very good.
They know for you. But unfortunately, if you do get past the point where these things are not helping at the moment and you got to do the bankruptcy filing or any of these things, Matt Bristol in his office can help you.
Come talk to us. There's no minimum amount you have to owe to file bankruptcy. You're not required to be bankrupt to file a bankruptcy, oddly enough. So you could have the winning lottery ticket in your pocket. You could still file a bankruptcy.
I'd like that.
Yeah.
Well, at least the winning lottery ticket.
Yeah. So there's, in the budget, you do the budget. And so after you strip out the credit cards, the hospital bills, the payday loan places, you strip all those out and you put all that money in savings instead. And most people, they're break even at that point.
Yeah. But I would tell, I'm guessing for people that have gone down, it's almost like a rebirth for them. Because
It's a fresh start.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger and things, I was like everybody else. I did a couple dumb things and had bad credit. It's very stressful.
Sure.
It's very and when you go through the hurdles and you come through and then you're, oh my goodness, I'm financially not a mess anymore. I can, oh, do we want to go out to dinner? I can afford that. You know, it's an awesome feeling to know that you've built yourself a little, and then that's just it. It's kind of like any other project. When you take ownership of it and you do it, you start investing your own time and energy. You start, getting proud of that and working harder to do better at it. And your budget's very much the same way because the better you get at it, the more fun it gets.
That's right.
Because you get more decisions to make and then
you got more money in the bank.
Exactly. And you're like, all right, I have time. Is it time where I get to purchase a toy for me, or do I need to keep saving here? And that's the game. It is at the end of the day.
So one of the things I talk with people about is being careful of what they purchase. So nowadays you see a lot of these pickups, on the road for $75,000, a high-end pickups, and there's people that buy them and drive them. And so I suggest to people that there's an alternative way to think about that. It's called a lost opportunity cost. I don't know if we've talked about that on the show before or not.
Not recalling off the top of my head here.
So what that is if you spend $5 at McDonald's, there's two costs at it. One cost is you spend a $5 bill.
Gotcha.
The other cost is called a lost opportunity cost.
Okay.
By spending your $5 at one store, you can't spend that $5 anywhere else.
Gotcha.
You've lost the opportunity to spend that money anywhere else. So it sounds like, well, that's pretty obvious, Captain Obvious. But the pickup truck has a lost opportunity cost because if your money's going towards the pickup,
sure,
it can't go anywhere else.
Right.
So what if we just took that $75,000, we stuck it in a, say, S&P index fund and walked away? Never look back, never add to it, don't touch the dang thing. And you come back when you are your parents' age. So young adults, you come back when you are your parents' age. You come back in 25 years.
Okay. Which is not long. I know if you're 20, it feels like an eternity. But when you get in your 40s, 50s, and beyond, 25 years ain't so long.
It's not. But that $75,000 would have grown by a factor of 10 to $750,000.
Wow, $750,000.
The lost opportunity cost of that brand new truck you're driving is $750,000.
Yeah.
Because you could have had that instead.
Sure.
So there's a lost opportunity cost to anything you spend your money on. And so I suggest, especially younger adults, think about that.
Sure.
Think about what you're doing.
And that's in any budget. I don't care if you're making $10 a week or $2,000 a week. It's the same principle there. You just,
especially you think about a couple, over 25 years, and they might have, drive a car every 8 years. So it's 3 cars a piece times 2. That's 6 vehicles that they may have spent $70,000 on each, or maybe $50,000 each. So now you got $3 million worth of lost opportunity cost.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of, it's almost no different than when you look at like vacation things you've done in the past. It's like, man, what I could have done if I didn't go there or do this. And hindsight's 20/20 kind of thing. But that's something that each individual has to balance for themselves. Like, what's more important to you, that car and the experience and things? Okay, maybe it is. And if it is, then fine. Then you do it that way. But if you're thinking, you know what, let me buy a used truck and take that $70,000 and do what Matt was saying here. There's no wrong answer, really. I mean, it's on what you want. If your goal is this way, then you do that.
Everything's a choice.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you're trying to be frugal and smart, then there is a right way. But if you're living your life and doing your thing, then you're.
And I've had people tell me they'd rather spend their money when they're young and enjoy it while they're young, and
that's fine. That's fine. You made the decision. Yeah.
But with every choice comes a consequence.
Absolutely. You're going to, every decision you make, there's going to be good consequences and bad consequences from that. And you have to weigh that. That's being an adult. I'm sorry. That's just That's what adult is.
Yeah, and you're right. That's adulting.
Yeah.
Is, if every choice has a consequence, and if you haven't learned that by now, then you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah.
So if you want to choose to spend your money now, not save it, that's fine. But then, go look at these people living on nothing but Social Security. That's minimum wage.
Absolutely.
That's a hard existence.
And the struggle they're going through and everything else. And and I'm sure if you ask every one of those people, they wish they did something different earlier in their lives to change that the way they're living now.
Yes.
So.
And for you youngsters, that's a good question to ask older folks is, what would you have done differently? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't ask somebody, hey, how rich are you? Because again, money's a touchy subject.
There is a tactful way to do this.
But what do you think you did right, and what would you have done different?
Yeah.
And learn from people on the other end of that life scale of, what not to do.
I know I love calling us boomers and throwing Karens or whatever names you like to go out there, but there is some wisdom behind some of that sometimes. And
yes,
we learned that same wisdom from the people that came before us, and they learned that wisdom from the people that came before them. And that's just, that's life.
The cheapest mistake you have is somebody else's mistake.
Exactly.
Learn from theirs.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. We as kids, they got to learn it to make their mistakes, and there's truth in that. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to learn all of your mistakes by you the one making them. You can watch other people screw up and say, "Hey, don't do what that guy did."
Yeah,
that's okay too.
Yeah. So pay attention, and just because your neighbor's got 2 expensive brand new pickup trucks, it doesn't mean they're successful. It just means they owe a lot of money.
Yeah, keeping up with the Joneses is a recipe for disaster.
And unhappiness, it sure is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Because they're probably living paycheck to paycheck.
Yep. Yeah. It's the duck analogy. They think everything's going on cool here, but under the surface, there's a whole lot of movement going on there.
Yeah.
So, if folks have any questions about anything we talked about or listening and need legal advice, help, family law, financial help, all this stuff we're talking about here, Bristol Law Office can help you out. Visit the website, bristolllawoffice.com.
Yes.
You can also call the office too.
Call us 625-5284.
Yeah.
We're doing appointments at people's convenience. If they want to come in personally, they want to do it over the phone, whatever they want to do, we're there.
Yeah. I mean, anywhere from the actually getting involved with legal stuff to if you're kind of, look, I've been hearing Matt talk all this financial plan stuff. I would love to sit down with him and say, hey, can you work with us on putting, because he'll be happy to help you out now than helping you with divorce papers or bankruptcy papers down the road.
Yeah, I'd rather you come in and say, my wife and I are thinking about buying a house. What do we need to think about?
Yeah.
How do we not screw this up?
Sure.
So I'd rather you come in early and we can solve the problems before they happen.
Yeah. And then obviously the next time when you're ready for your next phases in life legally, Matt will be there to help you through those too. So
we do all sorts of stuff. We'd love to help you out.
Absolutely.
So yes. Guess what, Mike?
Got your fact or fiction or?
Well, yeah, kind of, sort of.
Sort of.
In that, yeah. So I'm thinking about opening a restaurant.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
going to call it the Karma Cafe.
Karma Cafe. Okay.
That's right. There's no menus because you just get what you deserve.
I like it. You know what? That in today's world, you could do that theme and it probably would be huge.
Yeah.
People kind of, as long as you put it in a theme way, they'll be like, what a great experience. They punched me in the face and I loved it. Yeah.
I haven't filled a short questionnaire. And this is what you deserve.
Yeah. It was so authentic. Well, thank you, Matt. Appreciate the visit.
Oh, thank you, Mike. I enjoyed it.
And we'll see you next time here.
See you next month.
All right. It is 7:56.